Hey, welcome back to the Profit Roadmap. In this remastered episode, Becca and I had the great pleasure of speaking with Libby DeLucien, a seasoned field service business owner and coach, founder of multiple companies, including Organize It, Service Cart, and Root Recruit. And Becca and I were able to get her thoughts on a lot of topics that business owners struggle with. So things like leadership, technology, communication, the importance of data in your decision making, as well as the power of empathy in leadership. This episode was so much fun to shoot, and there are things in this episode that still haven't left me. So I'll stop yapping, but before we get started, as always, thanks for listening. Enjoy. Now, today, we're super excited to welcome back Libby DeLucien. Libby is based out of Fort Myers, Florida. She's launched numerous successful businesses and is a leading coach, hiring expert, and so much more. So today, we're going to talk about leadership and technology. Libby, welcome back to the Profit Roadmap. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm great. I'm happy to be back.
Absolutely.
Actually, I think I did the first episode that you guys kicked off with.
You did, and now we're on episode 30.
Yeah.
So we've been cranking them out, but we're always super glad to have you back. Every time you come on, you've got these awesome insights. So before we dive into that stuff, though, Libby, we have had you on the show before, but for any of those that are maybe just getting to know you, could you maybe share a little bit about your background?
Sure. So I live in Fort Myers, like you just mentioned, but I have a home service company. We do professional organizing and residential, some commercial cleaning. We're very light in there, but primarily residential cleaning, professional organizing. I have a location here in Fort Myers, and we just launched 2 new locations, one in Texas, one in Oklahoma.
Nice.
And boy, is that
Oh, congratulations.
Really?
that is a whole
Awesome.
different business. We're no longer in cleaning and organizing. We're in launching businesses. But my
That's
goal is to
amazing.
have 5 launched by the end of the year, or 5 locations by the end of the year. And then I also own Root Recruit, which is a recruiting process that's outsourced. And I also own Service Cart, which is it does online estimates for the residential cleaning space. So I got my hands really into that home service residential side.
Yeah. Well, also, congratulations on the new launches.
Thank you.
That's super cool. It stands to reason that leadership is something that you're pretty good at, considering the launches that you're doing. Would it be fair to call you a serial business owner?
Probably, yes. I'm not really a fan of the word serial entrepreneur because I think it's
Okay.
overused, but I like serial business owner. Sure.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's a little more agreeable. So yeah, let's dive into it. So we want to talk leadership and technology today. So first question I got for you would be, what strategies have you found effective when you're communicating with your team during uncertain times that help you maintain transparency and trust?
So, I think I've had a lot of practice leading up to this, going through, like COVID, the shutdowns, going through Hurricane Ian, because it was a great time of uncertainty. And I think one of the things that really helps me with leadership during uncertain times is super simple. It's just to be really open and honest. Like if you don't know the answers, it's okay to say like, I don't know the answers. And it's okay to lean into your team or to admit that we don't know what's going to happen or we don't know what's going on. But then to have that confidence to say, but whatever happens, I'm going to try my hardest. I'm going to do my best. And I think one of the greatest things about being a leader is, and I just had this conversation with somebody Friday, is even with uncertain times, showing that leadership, is the ability to show stability, especially during uncertain times. You have to look stable. Like you have to exude this stability. And how do you do that? It's to be consistent. It's to hold the meetings that you have scheduled. It's to do what you say you're going to do. Because during those uncertain times that, inconsistency and uncertainty breeds instability in our employees. So to work really hard on yourself, to do what you have to do to kind of just be that stable leader. An employee said to me one time, they said, when you cancel a meeting on me, it makes me feel like I'm not important. And I never thought about that because we just get busy being busy and we're like, oh, let me move this meeting over here and Monday's lighter and I'm busy this Friday. And I was like, oh my God, I never thought that. I just was busy being busy. And so now it's like, uh, if it's on my schedule, it's going to happen and I better have a good reason not to. And if it's already there, it trumps everything else that comes up. So to work hard to just really be that stable boss, that stable leader, especially during uncertain times, it's even more important. Um, and to not share with the team certain things. Like, it's okay to share that you're not sure, but it's not okay to go into detail because that could scare them.
Right.
Like, it's okay to say, I don't have the answer, but not share necessarily the nuances of that, because that could breed that instability or fear. So, just working on yourself to me when it comes to leadership is the biggest thing that you could do. Work on yourself to really get that consistency in you, to be performing at your top 1%. And if we just wake up every day and we're 1% better, um, it really, really helps that ability to handle the stress, to handle uncertain times, and to have those difficult conversations because it gives you the confidence that you need to have them.
Beautiful. So, as a leader, during times of uncertainty, sticking on that theme, is there anything? So, like internally, right? Like you might be panicking, or like there might be some doubt or some uncertainties and stuff. Is there anything that you do that like helps to deal with that sort of thing? Because again, you want to present this really stable image for your people. Obviously, you want to be stable too, but like that's really really critical. So, are there any strategies that you employ to like kind of help out with that stuff?
Sure. Don't drink. I actually needed, during Hurricane Ian and even during COVID, sometimes you want to turn to, oh my gosh, I need a drink. I'm stressed out.
Okay.
So don't do that. But no, I have a morning routine that I protect at all costs. So as entrepreneurs, we all operate on the spectrum. And what does that mean? That means we all have a touch of, if you name it, it could be ADD, ADHD, dyslexia. Um, so we all operate on the spectrum. So if we can kind of understand ourselves and how we operate, um, we can set ourselves up for success. When we become that boss that nobody likes, even ourselves, we haven't controlled our environment enough to know like what sets us off and what doesn't. So if I don't know, and you guys have been to conferences, but for the entrepreneurs listening, have you ever been to a conference and the fluorescent lights kind of start to hurt your eyes or it feels like they're jumping? That's just one of those things that kind of set us off. You start to get a headache. Um, and so when you can learn to control your environment or the things that trigger you, um, you can really operate at a higher level. But what I learned for me was I needed to make sure I started my day well. So I don't even start till working till about 10 o'clock. That doesn't mean I'm not doing things, right? So every morning I exercise. I have a morning date with my husband. I make time for either a little bit of yoga, manifesting, or meditation to help clear our mind because our brains are just running at 100 miles an hour. And then I make a little time for learning. Like, am I going to read? Am I going to listen to an audible? And then I review my numbers so I can have a sense of like, so I can get a pulse of where the companies are, how they're doing. So I just review my numbers. So that's like my morning routine. I have it set in my calendar. I have it set on my schedule. But if I do those things, I know that when I enter my foot in the door at 10, the virtual office, um, I'm good. I'm ready to go. I can handle anything and any problem. I skip those and it's like not having your cup of coffee in the morning and you're kind of cranky. So I really make sure that I am self-aware and I know how I need to operate, what I need to do, and I protect that. It's on my calendar. Because if not, you're going to go in the day and there's always a problem. There is always going to be a problem. We cannot control it. And the second I realize I can't control it, I have to give up and focus on all I can control is how I handle it. So then that's when I started to really focus on protecting like that morning routine. I haven't nailed the evening routine yet. But the morning routine, and it evolves. Good examples for the listeners who have kids that summer's coming. that morning routine is just going to go out the door, and I'm going to have to work on a new morning routine because there's no school now.
Love that. Creating a space for yourself and be, discovering or having some level of self-awareness of yourself and how you tick, your triggers, your behaviors, so that you can like choose different reactions to that. I really love that.
And being honest with yourself. I'll give you an example. Someone in my office is not the greatest with technology. And, you know, it's not their fault, but they're phenomenal on the phone. Great customer service. But that's turned into one of my triggers and I just told my office manager, I'm like, please, please, please do not let them come to me with any more technology complaints because I'm going to lose my mind. Like, just please, like, keep them away. Like, any other complaints, I can handle it. But I'm like, because there's nothing I can do. It's technology. Like, we all have the same issue. Like, my Zoom doesn't want to open either today. I need to restart my computer. But I've learned that it's a trigger, and I will turn into that condescending, cranky boss that is just not happy and is making their employees not feel happy. But also, once you see it, address it. Tell your other leadership team, like, this is like, I'm going to lose it if we have to talk about this again. Because if they know it too, it will help.
Well, I was going to say on transparency, I was going to ask a question because you touched on this a little bit on where do you draw the line with transparency? Because there's some businesses that have like little to no, and that could be to the detriment of the organization. And then there's some that might overshare. So or does it evolve? Like how transparent you are with your employees or your stakeholders?
I think that it'll evolve because first you have to decide, how transparent do I want to be? We share our numbers in my companies. We share our profit. We also share when we're not profitable. And we also have to share why we want to be profitable, because that is where money comes from for other things that the business needs to invest in or wants to better or improve. So it can be uncomfortable for a lot of people. Like, oh my gosh, I don't want anyone to know how much money I make. I'm like, I had a COO in Woo Recruit who was making really good money, more than me. And it was because I needed that. I didn't know what I was doing when I started Woo Recruit. I needed someone with experience. And so I was willing to pay for that experience. But even he was like, do you want the other people to see how much I make? I'm like, I don't care. You have experience. They should know that. They don't necessarily see what each other makes, no, but they see some of the numbers and the breakdown. So the bookkeeper was going to see what he made. So I think that you have to decide first. It's kind of like social media. How much of my life am I going to share on social media? Have those perimeters set, and then follow them. So it's the same thing with your business. How much of myself or even my family am I going to share with my business? So I want my children to be super involved. So I always take them, but that was a decision. So deciding kind of how transparent do I want to be? And then I think they need to know, yes, but I don't think they need to know the details. And what I mean the details is the things that's going to stress them out. That's our job,
Sure.
right? So and it's not that I'm trying to keep anything from them, but they don't need to be up tonight worried about if there's going to be a payroll issue, or they don't need to be up tonight worried about certain things if that's necessarily not their department. But that's my job, is to assume the stress. That's the benefit sometimes of saying, I can book a last minute vacation. I don't have to work this week because I assume the stress from the last 2 weeks. When you see CEOs or entrepreneurs like taking time off, and that's the trade-off. So I think just deciding how transparent you want to be, like with numbers, with profit, because, I used to, in the old organized office, I'd have, the numbers on a whiteboard. And, one of the cleaners came in and they're like, you spent $10,000 on marketing? I'm like, yes, I did. They were like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah. And now you want to quit and go open your own cleaning company? Like, do you want to float a $10,000 marketing bill or a $50,000 payroll? And it makes them think differently about maybe why they don't see you all the time, or why you can't pay them 100% of the revenue, because we pay our cleaning technicians a commission-based pay or percentage pay, then they understand more about like why there's percentages or why they only get a certain amount, because the money's going other places and they don't think about that stuff. So
Right.
I like being transparent because it helps with those things, but only to a certain level, because I don't think they need to worry about the nuances of marketing's not working, or our cost per customer acquisition cost is high. That's marketing's job, or sales. That's necessarily not everyone in the company needs to know that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. I like that the idea that transparency essentially breeds understanding and sort
Yeah.
of frames a perspective that on your own you're probably not going to come to the perspective that marketing costs your company $10,000 this month if you're just out doing what you're doing. Yeah,
No,
I
but
respect that.
if you want to do it, you also have to be prepared for the difficult conversations and questions that come along with it,
For sure. Yeah, I could see it
Because
because
definitely.
they're going to ask
Yeah.
like, why are you spending $10,000 on marketing? Like, why is, the office admin making, and we just typically show percentages or totals for the month. But you also have to be prepared for conversations if anyone asks. Like, I really haven't had an issue with people asking, but people will ask. Typically, I like to address it before it becomes an issue. That's why I feel like we haven't had a lot of people ask. But there's a great book that covers this if you ever want to share your financials with your staff. It's called Simple Numbers. Actually, it's right here because I was talking about it the other day. No,
Nice.
it's he talks about it. He's a boring little guy because he's an accountant. Simple
profits.
Numbers, straight talk. But he talks about the benefits and the pros and cons of really sharing those numbers externally.
Yeah, I like that a
Nice.
lot. So going back to sort of the operational side where it comes to like leadership and everything, you get your morning routine down, you nail that, you step in the door, you're ready to go. Like you said, something's always going to go wrong, right? Best case scenario, maybe one thing goes wrong for the day, and you have to really control how you react to that. So how do you prioritize tasks and projects when you come up against some sort of like unexpected challenge or maybe like limited resources, whether it's something small or something like crazy like what happened with Ian? Like, what does that process look like for you?
So, I'm really big into documenting our processes. So, what I've done to really help address these and figure out how to get through them is, I've created an entire, we're going to call it portal for our office staff and our field staff. And I've created micro playbooks inside of this portal. It's essentially like our own app where it helps answer how you do anything. So even with Ian, I had an emergency playbook. It walked my office through how to prepare, how to coach the cleaning staff, because the field staff starts to kind of get a little nervous and they want to stop working like 4 days before the hurricane even gets here, to coach them through it. So for me, it's documenting at a high level how to get through some of these scenarios so that you can empower your team to get through it without you. Because I will be honest, I don't do hardly anything in the day-to-day anymore. I do talk to customers. I reach out to see how things are going, but I'm not answering a phone or booking a call or doing an estimate, because I've really empowered the team. But by doing that, it's through documenting. And at first I used to make these elaborate, like 10, 30-page SOPs, playbooks, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not reading that. So I know they're not going to read it. So I've actually created this framework and I go around and teach it. And I'm actually writing a book and it talks
Whoa.
about this
Oh,
framework.
that's awesome.
Yeah. And it's called micro playbooks. And so there are certain elements that the micro playbook needs to have for it to be a micro version. So it's like the TikTok of playbooks. And I found that this has really been beneficial. In our tech portal, we have about 350 to 400 micro playbooks inside to really empower them. Like, there's an emergency at the house and what do I do? Like, the dog got out. What do I do? It's really, really made a difference in our company, and it's brought down the noise and the level of chaos that you feel on that day-to-day basis. Because if it's not in there, we make sure we document it. But the majority of everything is in there. And that's
Right.
why we're scaling to locations, because we found that it's so beneficial and useful. It's taken me years to document all this, but now that I have it, I'm like, now I can scale
Yeah,
and
that's
not
killer.
scale the chaos.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that, because documentation is so important. And I can't tell you how much, like I've started jobs and roles in the past where there's just like no documentation, no processes or procedures. So I'm always having to reach out, and it's a waste of time. So yeah, if I'm an employee and I'm coming in and there's like a process, there's a playbook, um, and I can like easily see step by step, it's very empowering. Um, yeah.
Awesome.
I like that it's as granular as like if the dog gets out, what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
There you go.
I feel like in a situation like that, a lot of different people are going to handle that situation very differently. But if you tell me how I'm
Yes.
supposed to handle it, then it's like, okay, well,
Right.
yeah,
Or, I mean, we even have, I'm driving to the house and ... And so it's like, I'm driving to the house and I break down and I get a flat tire and I run out of gas. Like, and I, so like there's everything answered in there. And then we've tried to also then, because then we realize is people didn't realize there was a response time needed. So then we started to go in there and add time to it. Like within 5 minutes, do this. Within 10 minutes, do this. Because not everyone responds this in the same time frame. We gave them a way to respond or the answer, but then we realized we needed to add a time frame to it as well.
super interesting. So on the subject of, you mentioned like, so you're not necessarily taking calls and doing some of the more day-to-day stuff anymore. I'm going to show a little bit of myself here because I'm very much the perfectionist where it's like, I can just do it myself and I can like, I know it'll get done right. As a leader, how do you separate yourself from that in a way where it's like, I'm going to give this to someone else, I'm going to trust them with it, and I'm just going to let them own that process so that I can step away and focus on other stuff?
So that was actually my biggest bottleneck when before I was able to grow. It was the whole thought process of only I can do it. I can only do it good enough, but that doesn't allow for speed or scalability. So who cares how it gets done as long as it gets done? And 80% is better than 100% of nothing. So really making sure that you have to know that if I want to grow, I want to scale, I want to reach my goals. And if I'm not willing to let go and give up control, that I'm going to just slow the process down. It is 100% a mindset issue. Because I'm a professional organizer. Like I love things perfect and neat. And for me to realize that I was the bottleneck, I was the issue, I had to kind of just, and it was just like an epiphany. It was one day it just changed. And I was like, okay, like I'm done. I don't care as long as it gets done. I honestly don't care as long as it's close to what we would want. But it's also learning how to communicate better and saying, this is what I want. Here's an example. And this is what the result I'm looking for versus just say, go do this.
Yeah.
You have to get better of communicating about what it is you want and why do you want it, so that it does get closer to what you're looking for or closer to what it would be if you did it versus just dumping something off without any direction. And that's what I was doing. I was just dumping stuff off without any direction, expecting them to think like me and act like me. In reality, they're not. But now that I've learned to communicate, and I think that honestly, owning Woo Recruit has really helped me with this because remote is hard. You guys all work in a remote setting.
Yeah.
You have to have another level of communication and clarity in a remote office than you did when you worked in an office. You had water cooler talk. You could hear somebody on the phone and you could yell at them across the room. That really helped me with another level of communicating and clarity that I needed to let go because I needed to be more detailed in what did I want and what were the expectations and results that we were looking for.
I like that. So like, be crystal clear and get out of your own way. I guess there are
There you go.
some ways to talk about that.
And you can't scale. One person can't scale. Like Michael Jordan was the best basketball player in the world, but he knew he couldn't win by himself because he tried. And then he learned that he had to build a team, he had to build a team around his weaknesses. And so that's what he did. He built the best team in the world around his weaknesses. And then he became known as one of the best basketball players because he knew how to build a team. And he was okay to say, hey, I'm not good at this or that. I need to go out and recruit, the best defensive player, the best point guard, to make him the best player.
You build the team and then you trust the team as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to a thought that I had when you were talking about like the technological like trigger for you. So like for me, like if someone comes to me with a tech issue, I'm like, yeah, man, happy to help you. Like that's very much like I'm very comfortable with that sort of thing. So it's like if you can build the team, like maybe if you and I were on a team, like just go to Ryan with your tech issues, please. He won't be cranky about it. I'll be yeah. So I want to pivot a little bit and talk on technology. Outside of like the ability to like clone myself and then scale with just myself, because maybe that'd be neat. But something that I think can be a really good, I call it a force multiplier for things like scaling and time efficiency is automation. So is automation something that you guys are using heavily in your business? If so, what does that look like?
So yes, we use automation a ton, especially through SA. Like we have tons of automations built out, workflows, triggers. But I think it's great. But I think that automation has a place, and we need to make sure we're automating the right thing. And how are we using those automations? So an example is, I don't necessarily automate the communication to the customer because sometimes that can take out that personal feeling. And we know when it's automated versus I automate the automations to my customer success manager to remind her to reach out to the customer. So we've built a whole program inside where after like the second recurring, the fifth recurring, the eighth recurring service, she's getting an automation that tells her, give them a call, send them a text message, send them an email, write them a letter with a little script. So, because we could automate that, but then a customer would know if it's triggered by an automation because it's going to be the same thing over and over and over. So what we did was we created a whole series over a year for a recurring customer. So whether you're in lawn care or house cleaning, you could do this, and it automates it, but to my CSM. So she gets the trigger, it creates the ticket and tells her what to do. So there's no dropped balls, there's no missing it. So I love automations. I think they're great. I think you can use them for customer engagement to a certain point, but then you can also use them for your office. I'm huge in using them for the office, for the to-dos, because the to-dos are the same. That way we don't forget anything. And it helps kind of create that workflow that they need and that consistency.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really good because my brain would go, oh, like automate the message to the customer and like we don't have to think about that anymore. But when you do that, you absolutely lose that human touch. And I feel like when you're engaging with a business, that's what everybody wants, right? Like I don't want to talk to a robot when I call Progressive to change my insurance over.
Or your bank, right?
Or my bank. Gosh, God, I don't want to talk about the bank.
They've overused it. Like it's kind of like, oh. And that's why we all hate calling our banks now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all like speak to a representative. I'll like say it 50 times. Speak to representative.
Yeah. So I think it definitely has its place to create efficiency and workflow and to cut cost. But we have to find the balance.
Absolutely. Do you have any other examples of kind of finding that balance in your business?
Yeah. So we have created all kinds of automation. So if a customer needs to do anything, they want to reschedule. They want to tip their cleaner. We've created automation and workflows where it's not triggering a customer, it's actually triggering our office. The customer wants to reschedule, it creates a ticket, then it notifies the customer. So, and then we actually have to do the reschedule manually. But we've created these workflows again, where it's just providing more consistency in the office and for the office. Versus it just being front facing to a customer. Because I think I was listening to a Gary Vee podcast, and he was like, automations were great when they first came out, but now everyone can use them. So how are you using them differently so that the customer doesn't know they're just in sequence in the automation? So that's where we got into really using the automations more on the office side to help trigger the office to not forget to do things like follow up with a customer. So we still have a ton of automations built out for like leads and the sequence for leads, giving those drips. So we still have like email automations for like Mother's Day coming around the corner. But those really high touch ones, especially if they're current customers, because we should be focusing on churn right now or customer attrition. We don't necessarily maybe want to pawn those off to an automation right now, but let's set up the automation to trigger our office. And the reason I'm talking about customer acquisition being so important or customer retention is because the COVID money has run out. Leads are not as easy to get. So we need to work even harder to keep our current customers.
I like that you have the automations built out, but it always filters through the office. So you can't lose the human touch because humans are still very, very much a part of that.
Are there any employees that will say, well, but Libby, it'd be so much easier if we could just automate this process? Do you ever have to like say, hey, this is why the human touch is so important to this business and to our success?
Yes. I actually had to have that conversation a couple weeks ago, about a month ago, because with the benefit of the tickets, you can see how long the ticket was open for and how fast was it closed. If it's open and closed in the same second, they didn't do it. So I don't know if anybody's looking at the audit trail in their tickets.
There you go.
So I was kind of like, And, we do have those conversations sometimes about the why behind it. And then I know that I just didn't do a good job at the beginning of explaining the why because of the touch points that we need. But then we also have the other side where we have some of our staff come to us and say, hey, like, I feel like this could be automated because it would make things easier. Can you set me up an automation so I don't forget to do X, Y, and Z? So they're going both ways, the conversations.
So that brings up an interesting point. Whether it's from the automations or just in general, when it comes to training your team on technology, say we have a new hire and we're teaching them how your business implements technology to help itself out. How do you do that while still also maintaining a really significant focus on customer relationships?
I think that's why I went with a CSM this year, a customer success manager, to really focus on building relationships with customers. We used to have a field manager, and so I pivoted from a field manager because the field manager was creating the relationships with the cleaners, not necessarily the customers. And as we saw the market start to shift, I said, you know what, we could make a mistake, and you would give me grace if you, as the customer, felt a connection to our company, because there's a difference between customer experience and customer service. Customer experience is how a customer feels. It has emotion. And if you can build a customer experience, they're more likely to have grace if you miss a spot or if you have to reschedule. But if you didn't build that, then it doesn't matter because you're just providing typical customer service like everybody else. You're not providing customer experience. So I wanted to focus on that customer experience and really dig into that to kind of help build those relationships. And I forgot completely what the question was.
No. So really, I guess the core of the question was like, how do you train your team to implement technology without like losing the human element and like understanding that like technology is a supplement to that customer experience?
Yes. So I always say, I own a SaaS, right? A service as a software. I always say that cleaning and lawn care, home service businesses are services as a software or services as a service, because they're ran on we're ran on technology. Like we're a SaaS enabled home service business is what we are, because we're ran on things like CRMs, like Service Autopilot. People use different softwares, and it was really interesting to me. I had hired somebody straight out of college. He was great. He was doing my marketing. And when he came to work for us, he was like, I cannot believe the amount of software that it takes to run a cleaning company. He was like, he just thought, it's a cleaning company. How hard could this be? Even he struggled with the amount of tech stack that we have. And so that was a really good sign. Like I started to kind of like clean up and simplify, and what softwares was I using? And then like, I went and bought another software, but this software already does it. So I'm like, you either have to go all in or you're creating a level of complexity. So the first thing I would say is don't create levels of complexity you don't need to have. Like stop going off and buying every shiny object and every new tool because it's the newest thing or fancy. Go all in with your software or your softwares, and really understand them. Then the next thing with that is, if you're really driven by software, it's really hard to have someone who isn't tech savvy. You know how many times I've coached cleaning business owners on, they've hired a office manager. They're great. They're great on the phone. They're great here. They're a great people person, but they struggle in tech. And it's always an issue if they struggle in tech. So allowing the softwares to train them. So this is what I saw is they were trying to teach their office staff the technology. They were trying to show them how to use it. They were trying to coach them on it. They were trying to teach them. When in reality, all of the tech companies, all the software companies have training videos. Let them learn it because they could probably learn it better than us teaching them. And I think that's the bottleneck. Let them dive into the YouTube videos, the training portal. Yes, it will take some time because they're going to have to watch through all of them. But they could probably get a better understanding from the software than you training them, because you're just training them your old habits or the way you use the software, which is limited. They could probably learn it to another level that you don't even know how to use.
Yeah, I will say working for one of those tools that are employed in businesses and stuff, we put a lot of effort in the training side. So
huge effort. I think we on Service Autopilot said we had like a Drive the Digital whole campaign for a year. We tried to get everything we can imagine into a digital knowledge base, just to make it more efficient for learning. So, and I really apologize. I have a lawn care company outside if it's loud. But
well, I hope they're a Service Autopilot customer.
Exactly. I liked how you distinguished between customer experience and customer service. Those two different things, because I'm thinking of my journey as a consumer. If you give me an experience, I'm probably more sticky to stay with you and to forgive and give grace versus just like a transactional experience. And so that really made me think of AI, how everyone thinks AI is going to take away jobs and whatever, but it's just proof that you can use, every conversation we've had around AI is just, it's a supplement. It's to help enhance. It can't take away the whole process of you still needing human interaction in your customer experience or customer service.
Yeah, because I see people in the recruiting space that are trying to get like AIs to make the phone calls to your applicants. And I'm like, no, please. It'd be the same thing as having an AI call your customers to ask them how it was. They're going to know. How warm and fuzzy does that feel?
Right.
And so I love tech. It has its place, right? Like with AI, it should be the bridge, but it cannot be the foundation. It could be a bridge to make it easier, faster, cut time down, but it cannot be the foundation. And I feel the same thing, when it comes to customer experience, it's the same thing as an applicant experience. If there's too much AI or too much tech, you're taking the human out of it, and we're a human to human business.
I want to go back because we were talking about sort of that personal touch and automations, and you made a comment that was, if they open the ticket and it's there for 2 seconds and they close it, that something didn't happen, right?
Oh, yeah.
So working on the support team, 100% true. But I want to expound on that a little bit. So are there, obviously you've got like, ticket, time to closure, stuff like that, but are there certain metrics that you guys look at specifically that help you evaluate the success of your customer service approach?
So that customer service rep is really focused on churn. What is the churn and keeping it under a certain percentage? But you also have to arm your customer service rep with tools to help in the fight against churn. And what is that? So we measure them on a weekly basis, and we try to keep it under a certain percentage. And typically in house cleaning, like 2 to 3% is normal. You get to 4 and 5, that's super high. With cleaning, it's like lawn care. It's not a necessity. It's more of a luxury service because I can go cut my yard if I want to. I can clean my house if I need to. But these are all people paying us just because they don't want to. So churn is one of those things to keep an eye on. So we measure them off churn, but also you can't just measure them off churn if you're not arming them with the proper tools. And what do I mean by that? Well, we built out a 12-month sequence for her to touch base, call them, text them, how they're doing, to build that relationship. And then the other is she needs a fund to, what is she okay doing without any authority? Like, can she give a discount? Can she say, hey, I'm going to throw in a free refrigerator cleaning because you've been a great customer. Hey, I'm going to do this extra for you. Or, what is her fund that she can spend without having to ask me or the office manager for any insight or permission? So, having that fund. Also, what can she authorize for discounts? If someone wants to cancel, how many times have we tried to cancel a software and they're like, oh, but are you sure you want to go? What if I give you 3 months at a discount, like at 30% off? Like, are you sure you want to go? And we don't seem to do that in residential or home service industry. And so we don't have churn funnels in home service. You guys know what a churn funnel is. You work for software. So churn funnels don't exist in like home service companies. But so what we did is we gave her the authority to really act as the churn funnel, to say if someone's canceling, offer them 20% off for the next 3 months, put it in there, and it automatically goes back to the regular price. We don't ask. We don't say, hey, by the way. So acting more like a software when it comes to measuring that churn for our customer success rep has really helped us. And I've learned all that having 2 softwares now. And so when something happens, I kept saying, we're not okay with that. We're going to fight for the customer. Like, we're going to fight to keep the customer. So she's armed with her stuff now and she can fight to keep the customer. That's her job. And also then arming her with the tools to be able to capture what would you pay, so she can capture that. What would create more value? Because softwares, again, we do that. Like, what would you pay? Or what value could we add to increase the value of the service? So she's documenting those things so we can kind of get a gist on are these some things that we could change, implement, pivot? And we got some great insight. People didn't like that we were making it difficult to reschedule. So that was some great insight. And that was probably like the number one thing. And we didn't really realize we were making it difficult, but she was asking in her calls, like, how can we provide more value? What can we do better? But we're measuring her off churn, and she has a budget that she has to stay in, monthly budget to keep customers.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So I've heard,
because how much am I going to spend to get a new customer, right? Customer acquisition cost versus keeping a customer cost.
It's probably a lot lower to keep them. I'm guessing.
A lot lower to keep them.
So it's interesting you bring that up, because I'd heard a similar strategy from another business owner recently, where it's like, hey, like, I'm going to just give you, like, how much am I willing to just let you spend to make the problem go away without you having to come to me, without you having to talk to me? I think that's a really interesting point. A question I've got for you, and maybe this just comes with some industry knowledge. We deal with a broad range, so it's like sometimes it feels hard for me to like know all of the things about all of them. So you said like 4 or 5% churn was pretty high. Is there like anywhere someone can go to like get a benchmark? I get this might be a little more specific for cleaning business on like what's high for like the industry. Like, what numbers should they be expecting, and how can they learn what numbers to expect? Or is it just measure yourself and then do better?
So I think, first of all, no matter what industry you're in, don't count your churn as in like, oh, we lost 3 customers today, or this week or this month. You should look at it as a percentage, because as you grow, you're going to lose more customers. And then you're going to be like, oh my God, something's wrong. We've lost 10 customers. Well, not if you have like 500 customers.
Right.
10 isn't a lot, but 10's a lot if I have 100 customers. So
Right.
always measuring your churn and against your like in a percentage and not necessarily a number. And, as far as industry wide goes, so there are industry coaches that always recommend it or give insight. So with cleaning, again, it's 2 to 3%. Like 2 is great. 3 is like, okay. 4 and 5, you're like, something's broken. We're bleeding, because you have to be taking more in to even keep up with the net, like to have a net positive. So, and then, it depends on your size. Some of the larger companies experience a higher churn, especially in residential cleaning. When they're around that $3 million mark, the churn gets higher because you're managing more people. It's your quality now becomes an issue because you're scaling the quality. So, it depends on the size. And I don't honestly know the churn for lawn care or other industries. But things like HVAC and plumbing wouldn't necessarily have a churn because they're not recurring. So we're more on like the house cleaning, lawn care and pool service, anything that's that recurring service. And again, we're considered a luxury service, whether we believe it or not, because we're not a necessity per se. It's just people don't want to do it, which is great. But just remember, when I say those churn numbers, those are monthly churn numbers. So when you times that times 12, you're churning out almost all of your customers a year. if your churn gets up to like 5%. So just watching, or at least half your customers, watching that, and how much am I willing to spend to bring in new customers versus how many are going out the back door? Because I think we get so focused on marketing, that we need to focus more on retention. It's actually cheaper to focus on it.
Right. I'm sure, do you track like the churn, like trends, the reasons? Is it like
yes? So we have a form, and we ask all of our customers to fill it out. We kind of tell them they have to fill it out. And that's why we're only telling them again, I'm running it like a software. I'm only telling them they have to fill it out, because we're trying to get the data. We just want to know
Absolutely.
what could we have done better. And so we do track the churn, why, the trends. Like for us here, it's all of our snowbirds are leaving. So we're losing a third of our customers, or we already did lose about a third of our customers, but we track them separately. Out of the regular churn, because there's nothing we can do to keep them. We've tried, like it's our season, it's our area. So instead of my office team getting not punished, but instead of it being a negative for my office season, we decided years ago to track seasonal churn and then churn. And so we do track that separately, because then we run different sequences and ad campaigns for the seasonal churn to kind of get them to come back, to remember us. Hey, it's that time of year. If you want your same technician or same spot on the schedule, sign up early. Versus tracking the other churn as well, and then retargeting. Then we also retarget the churned customers.
The more you say it, I just love the idea of treating for home service businesses, like treat it like a software, like implement these processes of like the churn funnel, empower your employees to offer like a discount in the field to keep someone, like fill out the form to get this data easily so you can like refine your business and your processes. This is really, I love that idea. Yeah.
I've done a lot of learning on the SaaS side, so it's really helped. And I'm in a SaaS group with a mentor, and it's funny because I'm in this SaaS group learning, and I'm like, everything is applicable to my home service business.
I also like the idea of breaking out like seasonal churn and regular churn.
Yeah.
I feel like that could, especially if you're sharing that information with your team, right? Like it could be really demoralizing to just see a third of your customers, like that chart just going skyrocketing down. That could be a very panicking moment. But yeah, separating that out and understanding like this is going to happen and that's just the way that it is. And like, it's part of the process, and then, get that spike later. But
we've started tracking turnover the same way. So we track turnover and regrettable turnover.
Okay. So that takes me back on the first episode. I think it was the first episode. One of the things that you said that still sticks with me is that not all turnover is bad.
Hmm.
I'm probably paraphrasing that. You said it way more gracefully than I did, but could you talk about that a little bit more? Because I love that concept.
Yeah. So we track turnover two different ways. We track regrettable turnover, and then we track turnover. So regrettable turnover is actually because of something we did. So it's regrettable. So what does that mean? That means we didn't hold up our end of the deal. Maybe we dropped the ball somewhere. We didn't onboard them properly. We messed up. That's regrettable. Like they could have been a great fit, but we fludged it up. We messed it up. We dropped the ball. So we track that turnover separately because then we know like, hey, or you know what? They're moving to another state. They're getting divorced. Like that is turnover. But regrettable is kind of put yourself in perspective to see like we missed the boat on this and this is our fault. It will give you some perspective of your office. How organized are you in your onboarding and your employee journey? But no, not all turnover is bad turnover because it's like recruiting's like dating. We don't know if they're going to be Mr. Right or Mrs. Right. We have to give people a chance. But where we fail as small business owners is once we see that, oh, you know what, they're not a good fit, we tend to just keep them and not, we're going to say, promote them to a new company. We tend to keep them.
I like that.
Even though we know, you know what, they're not a good fit or they're not a culture fit, but like they can clean good. And we know it. And then we keep them and it gets out of hand, something happens. We get apathy for our own business. We don't even want to go into our office. And so no, not all turnover is bad turnover. We have to give people a chance. And when we see that they're not a good fit, it's okay to set them free. Like it's okay to let them go so that they can move on with their life as well. And I think we look at firing people bad as a negative. And it's not necessarily it's not a negative. It's just, it's not a fit, right? It's not a fit, whether it's values, the job quality, capacity, it's not a fit, but they could find another place that's a great fit for them. So we're doing a disservice by keeping them just because we're lazy, because we don't want to go back in the field and clean or go back to recruiting or doing interviews, when we could have set them free to find a better fit for themselves.
And I love that you guys track all that stuff, because a very important thing that you need as a business owner to make decisions and be a leader is data. And if you're making decisions without data, you're kind of shooting in the dark, and it's like you're playing the lottery.
So you're making decisions based on your feelings.
Yeah.
There you go.
And who knows, like I could be having a horrible day today and I'm going to make my decisions based off how my current state of feelings are. And if you don't have that data, we're making emotional decisions, which can be dangerous and devastating to a business.
That's something actually. Do you talk about that or teach that with your teams as well, as like take the emotion out of it? It's like there are times to be emotional as a leader, but then there are times where, hey, I have to shut this off and like focus on the logic.
So I think emotions are great for helping create connection, right? That's when we want to use our emotions or our feelings to show empathy, to show kind candor, to show that we care. But when it comes to making a decision, we want to use more data. We want to make an educated decision versus like a decision off emotion. So I think, especially like women in business, we have an advantage, I feel like, over men, that we can create better connections with our team because we have that emotional side. So we can create better bonds and closer working teams. But where we lack is the decision-making process, using the data or educated decisions and taking our emotions out. But if we can learn to do those two things, like use our emotions to create the connections and use the data to make decisions, it really helps. It's a great mix.
I like that a lot. I guess, so one of the next questions that I had for you based on that was kind of what role empathy plays in your leadership style. I think you just answered it though. So I think that's super cool.
So I try to be a very empathetic leader. Something happens, I'm so sorry. I understand. Someone, say, is going through a custody battle with their ex-partner. My approach would be like, I completely understand. I've been there. There's nothing I can say that's going to make it any easier. but here's what I did, right? I'm empathetic. I am real. I am touchable. I am accessible to everybody. Empathy plays a great role, because empathy isn't saying you can walk all over me. Empathy is just simply stating, I hear you and I understand how you feel. But a lot of, especially female business owners, are scared to show empathy because they think it's a weakness.
Yeah.
But it's not a weakness. It's simply just saying, I hear you and I understand how you feel. That's it.
I know that's something you're also passionate about, like female entrepreneurship. And I believe you have a podcast as well that you.
It's not all female. There's men on that podcast.
Okay. Which is good. We should have both perspectives, but that just made me think, like, I know when I first started out in tech, those thoughts of, like, at the time I worked at a company where it was 90% men. Like, I was probably one of two women. And so coming in with this idea of, like, if I need to be more firm with something, I don't want to get labeled as, like, the aggressive woman or something. So, like, I really resonated with what you said. It's like, I'm not doing that. I'm doing what the guys are doing, but now I'm labeling myself, or I'm self-conscious, or someone is. So how do you fight against that in that space as a female businesswoman leader? Like those mindsets.
It's a great question. Actually, where the book is going to cover some of this topic. And because, a great example is I am in Dan Martell's SaaS Academy. SaaS is a lot of men in the SaaS world. In the recruiting space, I'm the only girl I know right now that owns a recruiting SaaS. I don't know any. I'm just playing with a whole bunch of guys. So I got put into this mastermind group with SaaS owners. And there I am again. I'm the only girl. Like, everywhere I go, I'm like the only girl. I joined Jonathan Potashnik's The Elite Group. I was like the only girl owner. There were women in there because I had some great friends in there, but they were in there with their spouses. So they had that partner with them. But I'm the only girl again, all by myself. So, it's a balance of, you don't want to come off as, that not so nice boss, you don't want to come off as a Karen either. Sorry if anyone's name's Karen. So it's, to me, it's what we just talked about. It's having that balance between using my emotional side for what it's good for, right? What is it good for? It's creating connections, relationships, and showing empathy with our employees. And then using the other side, which is have data, make sure I know that I'm making the right decision. So I have a decision-making framework that I run through to make sure I'm not making emotional decisions or decisions that are in my best interest. You would be surprised how many business owners make a decision because it conveniences them. And it's not in the best interest of the company. And that is my biggest fear, is that I do not want to make decisions that are comfortable for me. An example is interviewing. A lot of people are like, oh, I want to do Zoom. They're so much easier, but they're not effective. And that's making a decision because it's easier. It's in the best interest of you. It's not in the best interest of your company. Now, some people have great success with Zoom, but for the majority, it's harder. So having a decision-making framework, always sleep on everything. Do not just make a decision. Have a decision-making framework. Take your emotions out of your decisions. Make sure you're using data or logic to make those decisions, but use your emotional side where it's powerful, because someone asked the other day, I was at a Cody Sanchez thing, and somebody said, how do I compete being a girl in a man's world? And she goes, you don't want to know her answer was, but she said, that's your advantage. So it's actually an advantage because we have the ability to make the data-driven decisions if we collect the data. But we have the emotional way to connect with people, where sometimes men lack that. So use it to your advantage. And then the other thing is, for a female, trying to come up and make it, is, I really feel that authenticity is the new currency. Everybody's like speed and AI. It's authenticity, right? Be yourself. Don't try to be something you're not. Be yourself. And be comfortable with yourself, whatever that is. But be yourself, be authentic. Don't try to force it. this is gonna sound so funny, but be comfortable in the clothes you wear. Who cares what you like? Don't try to be something you're not, because it's gonna make you so uncomfortable and unapproachable.
Authenticity is the new currency. I'll take it. That's awesome.
Ryan's in like deep thought.
Well,
He's
yeah.
in
So
deep
like,
thought.
so like, I love this topic of like women in like male dominated spaces, and like the industries that we serve in, like that's the story for sure. And like we did a panel like internally for Explore for like International Women's Day a month ago. And so my gears are just turning for that, because I checked that out, and it was insightful, because you brought up some of the problems, like I see them like even like in my own life and stuff, and it's it was eye opening to realize there are different experiences out there, because it's just not something that I was completely aware of. So yeah.
And I think, with women, we struggle a lot with imposter syndrome, right? We struggle a lot
Yes.
with
Absolutely.
self-confidence.
Yeah.
And, we were raised, just it's in us. It's how women are raised. It's to be, we're that you grow up, you get married, you have kids. You have to be the nurturing, empathetic, be a babysitter, like person. And where men are raised more with natural confidence, right? Um, and so it's different. Men have their struggles as well, and women have theirs. And I think, especially we see more and more women entering that entrepreneur space, or coming into tech, right? Making it into the tech world. And, it's hard to fight that imposter syndrome. And I think, my morning practices that I do keep my mind clear. The other thing I do is I'm a habitual Facebook blocker. So if I've blocked you, I apologize. Um, I apologize, but I had to go block all my competitors, not because I don't want them to see what I'm doing. They can still see my profile is public. I block them because I get in my own head and I get distracted, and then I'm like, oh my God, look what they're doing. And I have to stay focused. And so to avoid that imposter syndrome, or that lack of confidence that, yes, I still get all the time, because people are like, oh, I bet you're so confident. I'm like, I have to make it. I have to set it up for success. I block people or unfollow them all the time because I don't want to get in my own head. Like, uh, someone actually came up to me. He owns a recruiting software that's a competitor. He goes, Libby, are you mad at me? I was like, not that I recall. He's like, well, you blocked me on Facebook. He's like, I wanted to check out what you were doing. First, it made me feel good because he was looking and he was like, what's Libby doing? And then I was kind of like, no, you know what? I blocked all my competitors because I don't really care what you're doing. I don't want to see it. It's a distraction and I'm focused right now. And I don't want to harm that focus. And so, like, for any women out there listening, like, if you're struggling, if you're like, you have to control your surroundings. You have to know how you operate. You have to know what those triggers are. And you have to know how you operate well too, though. Like, and take action on it. Like, I went and blocked all kinds of people. And some of them I told that I was friends with. Like, I'm friends with one of my competitors, another one. And I said, hey, dude, I'm blocking you because I don't even want to know what you're doing. I'm so focused trying to get something done. I can't see it. It's a distraction. And I'm going to get all in my head. So just controlling that, like learning, and when you feel something, like when something upsets you, sets you off, you get in that and you get in your own head, realize, like, pay attention to what did it and then eliminate that.
That's brilliant. Because I've had moments like that where I get online and I get that feeling when I look at people who are in a similar field as I am, and it looks like they're progressing and I'm not, even though I know I am making progress, but maybe on a different scale. So I liked how you said you block them, because you can get easily distracted by the noise and you forget your task, your focus, your vision. So it's like, stay in your lane. There's many ways to arrive at the same destination. Like, don't get distracted by what everyone else is doing, because that can be very easy to do.
Oh yeah. And that it doesn't even matter if you're a business owner or not for that. Like, it could be your family.
That's
Like,
true.
are they bringing you down? Are they getting in your head? Like whoever it is, as a business owner, to be a great leader, because we started with all leadership stuff. You, to be a great leader, you have to have such clarity in your head. You have to learn how to avoid stress, cut it out. Whatever's stressing you out, cut it out. You also have to understand yourself. And that goes to everything from a morning routine to decision-making frameworks to blocking people on Facebook, so that you can really operate at your prime, no matter if you're a team member, an entrepreneur, or working in one of the companies. These are little tiny things that I've had to learn over the years, and I probably paid a lot of money in coaching to really learn how to do these things. And I'm making them sound easier than they are, but you can always start somewhere.
Something you said about, because you're talking a lot about like being very purposeful about what you allow in your space and intentional. Can you speak on briefly like the power of saying no? Because I had to learn personally. I was always a yes, yes, yes. Let me like jump on your project or your thing, but I was saying yes to everyone to my own detriment. I didn't have time for my own things. So, do you have a journey like that, or just experience of learning like it's okay to say no? You have to let people
Well,
down.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
mom, my son played travel ball, like my daughter's in Girl Scouts or got a business. People reach out all the time for help, like from me for either like their home service business or recruiting tips. And it's not that you want to be mean, but like every time I say yes to something, I'm saying no to something else. So I had to remember that. And I was that yes person. I used to be in B&I groups. Like I would say yes to every event. I would say yes to every position. B&I is a networking group for for business owners, and I would do everything, and I was always yes, yes, yes. And eventually, like I actually had to read the book. It was a spinoff from Marie Kondo's book, like The Magical Art of Tidying, but it was the magical art of not giving a F.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I've seen that one around.
that helped me really get through that. And finally, the other thing I do is I work on a framework called the Perfect Week. And I taught it a little course, and I have a Facebook group called Service Success where I teach like processes and frameworks, and because that's my jam. I taught it in there. And it's one of those things where if you organize your day, your perfect week, like this is how my perfect week would look, you have your week decided. You can't say yes to random stuff anymore
Yeah.
because you've structured your week. And so it so helped me. And then there's no bleed time. There's not like, oh, can you spend an extra 15 minutes? Oh, I'm so sorry. Like I have something coming next. Like, it eliminates bleed time. It eliminates saying yes to everything because I am a kind person. I want to help everybody to the detriment of my own self and well-being. And so for me to not feel guilty to say no to things, I actually had to have something else planned. Like I had to have something on my calendar. So
Yeah.
that's where I started practicing the perfect week to set those up so that it wasn't just saying no and I felt kind of snarky. It was like, no, I actually have to record a podcast today, or I'm doing XYZ. So really diving into that perfect week framework. And no, it's not, I don't do it perfect every week, but it helps that if I fall off the wagon or I want to take a vacation, I come back, I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing and where I'm at. And they're just blocks of time I would be working on particular things in the business. And my exercise is in there, brunch on Sunday mornings is in there. And since so that has really helped me learn to say no, um, and control my time better. But I so was guilty of the yes to everything. Parent PTA, driving everybody's kid to practice, picking them up, dropping them off. And now I know that if I want to stay focused, if I want to reach my goals, I have to stay focused. And here's the other thing I realized, and I just realized this just kind of recently, probably in the last 3 months, 4 months. And this was a hard pill for me to swallow, is I was saying yes to everybody. I was helping other entrepreneurs. I was helping friends. I was helping other parents. But you know who I wasn't saying yes to? I wasn't saying no because they weren't asking. Is I wasn't saying yes to my own employees. So if I'm over here doing all this stuff on the side and helping and answering questions and driving kids to practice, and I have this great group of people, whether you're whatever, if they're in the software side, if they're in the organized side, that they're not asking me for anything, but they could use so much more help and mentoring and my time. And I wasn't saying yes to them. So I kind of dedicated that I was going to slow down and stop helping, saying yes to everything out there, and just give myself to my staff if they need anything. So like now we do soft skills training and we do this training and we do that training and we close for a half a day so we can do something. And I thought, you know what, that's not fair. I'm out here helping and doing all kinds of stuff, but I'm not helping them. And so I kind of had that wake up moment where I was like, Libby, you need to slow down and focus on your own team.
I'm about reinvesting back into home base. I don't know. I think we're almost at the end here, right?
We're coming up on time. But I mean, you're having a great conversation. So I just wanted to shut up and let you guys go. Cause I think it's super important stuff.
No, I'm also passionate about women in tech and business and entrepreneur. And I'm like, so a lot of the things you talk about, even in the last podcast, your first one with us, it really, really resonates from that perspective because I really understand it. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm working with a writer now to write a book. And we had first started as a recruiting book. And then we're like, yeah, it has evolved into, because he's like, what do you contribute to a lot of your success? What you're like, he's like, because you're slaying everything from work to family to your kids. And I said, I contributed to, it's going to sound so funny, is the ability to really document things and empower my team. But it comes back to the micro playbooks, documenting them, giving them access, empowering them to do it. But then I also contributed to using my girls' side as a power and learning that where that boat is short, how do I also be able to hold my own in a room full of men, which is more that logical, data-driven side. And then how do I carry myself with that confidence to always be in a group with men, and trying to compete with them, because I'm going to take them all down.
More power to you, Libby.
So this book is a mix of all of that. It's about, I actually want to know what made you want to write the book, but it's a mix with the micro playbook and also just personal stories as well.
Yep. It's the reason it goes back to playbooks because I contribute that to my success and the ability to scale and have freedom of, time and purpose. So it's a mix of a lot of that. It will be, entrepreneur women focused. We did make that decision here recently. What made me want to write a book? It's in my 3-year vision. So is to write a book. And I also, I want to help other women really know that like there's another side to life, whether you're an employee, you're an entrepreneur, you're 1099, you're subcontractor, no matter what it is. So my want was, I have been through some not great stuff. Like everybody sees me and thinks, oh, she's got it all together. She knows what she's doing. She's confident. And that is far from the truth. Like I come from an abusive past marriage where he was physically abusive, mentally abusive. And so when I say I have to work on myself every morning, I have to work on myself every morning. And he was a substance abuse problem. So dealing with all that, from that to being kicked out, being divorced, and taking everything and starting from literally zero. So there are so many people, women or men, that have to start their lives over. And you're not starting over, you're starting from your experience. And so I want to share that, we can go through bad things, but it doesn't define who we are. And I was always hesitant or almost ashamed to talk about it because I thought it made me look weak. But over just working on myself and learning and doing breathing exercises, and just understanding myself more, it's what's made me so strong. And I want other people to know that it's okay. It doesn't matter what happened to you in your past because it doesn't define you. It actually is one of those things that can actually benefit you, because it's how I'm so strong when it comes to difficult moments or difficult decisions. Because I look at that and I'm like, well, this is nothing compared to what I dealt with 15 or 20 years ago. And so it kind of evolved from there, the book idea. And then Dan Martell, he's one of my personal mentors. He's like, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. And I'm like, okay. But I'm like, here comes the imposter syndrome. Who would read my book? Who would read what I have to say? And
we would read it.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
I'll pre-order it.
You know, it's getting into your own head again. You're like, well, who's going to read what I have to say? And luckily I have great support people are around, and I did hire a writer. So it's the writer of Buy Back Your Time, who's was a big book. He's helping me write the book, just kind of taking my own words and writing them for me. So it's super exciting. He makes me sound so smart when he rereads the stuff back to me. Like, wow. But it really spawned from there. And I contribute everything back to my organizing side of, I love to document what we do and how we do it. I love to create it so that it's digestible and that it's usable. And so we're going to just kind of talk about how simple little frameworks can help us really scale our businesses to another levels, but also how do you do this as a woman entering in the field to do it with confidence. And so it's not going to be like a girly kind of side of a book. We're going to probably say some stuff some people may not want to hear.
I like it. I think anyone that's been through crap in life and had to like hit rock bottom and come back up and start over, I think it'd be very inspirational. And if you haven't, it's still inspirational to read. So when can we expect the book?
I have no clue.
Okay, no, it's still in process. It's still being written.
We're still writing.
Yeah. Okay, awesome.
Yeah. Well, when it gets closer,
when you have it ready. Yeah.
Yeah, when it gets closer, we'll have you back on. You can announce the book tour.
I know that's a whole nother thing. Is like a book launch.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. So I'm excited to see. I would have never done it if I didn't put myself in a peer group, right? That held me to a higher level than I held myself to. And so I've put it down that I've always wanted to do it, but putting myself in that peer group is one of those things that it really puts that pressure on you to up-level yourself.
It's awesome. Well, Libby, thank you so much for coming on to the Profit Roadmap. Every time we talk to you, it's always super inspirational. It's awesome. So
thank you.
Genuinely, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I always love coming on.
All right. Well, like I said, we'll have you back. You can announce the book tour. It'll be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
So Libby, if people want to learn more about you, where can they find you?
Oh, yes. So I'm the only Libby DeLucien in the world.
Wow. Very unique.
That's
awesome. If you cannot
actually.
spell my last name, if you can't spell my last name, you can look for thegirlinthehat.com. So because I wear a hat, so it's thegirlinthehat.com, or you can just go to libbyd.com. It's pretty simple as well.